Good evening. My name is Alison and I represent District 10 on the Austin City Council. In 2016, my council member was Sherry Gallo, a conservative who voted against funding for after-school programs and shelter for women and children, and she could not be counted on to protect workers and their rights. So I decided to stand up to her. I ran against her in 2016, and against the odds, and with a lot of Democrats working hard, including Austin Young Democrats, we flipped this seat and won. We achieved this together. I made a promise in 2016 to put community first, not special interests, and I've worked hard to keep that promise. From passing landmark climate goals and programs, to increasing our living wage, to championing reforms to how we handle sexual assault, and reforming our other public safety investments, I've stood up to special interests, and I'm not stopping now. In 2020, we faced multiple crises: a pandemic, high unemployment, systemic racism, and climate change. Yet I believe Austin's best days are ahead of us. I'm running for re-election because this is a time for leadership and proven experience. I'm a mom, a small business owner, educator, and community advocate. I have over 20 years of nonprofit and university leadership experience, and I have advocated successfully for parks, the environment, schools, and gun safety. I am a trained economist with a PhD from Harvard and a BA in public policy from Stanford. We need honest, hardworking, and competent leaders who believe that city government should solve problems and create a climate in which all can thrive and feel safe. I believe we can turn the current crises into catalysts for solving problems that have challenged our community for too long. Since first elected in 2016, I've asked the tough questions, done my homework, and focused on long-term solutions. I respond with compassion and real action and have always been honest with my constituents. I'm proud to have the endorsement and support of Congressman Lloyd Doggett, State Representatives Donna Howard, Cheryl Cole, Eddie Rodriguez, and Travis County Commissioners Jeff Trevelyan and Bridget Shea. I also have the support of the Austin Chronicle, Austin Environmental Democrats, the Austin Tejano Democrats, Central Austin Democrats, West Austin Democrats, Liberal Austin Democrats, Unite Here, Education Austin, the Austin EMS Association, the Central Labor Council, and AFSCME 1624, which is our employee union for city and county workers. I'm supported by the unions representing those who literally teach, build, drive, and serve our city. I have that support because I have a proven record of standing up to special interests and pushing for reform. As someone who's taken the No Fossil Fuel Money pledge, I'm really grateful for this question on climate change. Combating the climate crisis requires fair and just solutions for all. As we work to prevent and mitigate the effects of climate change, we must do so in a manner that not only does not cause harm to marginalized communities, but in a way that addresses historic injustices to promote a more equitable and sustainable society. This work has been among my top priorities since entering office in 2017. I've relentlessly pursued a bold plan, and specifically, I have led Austin's declaration of a climate emergency and advanced ambitious efforts to make our climate safer and accelerate our goals. Increased our renewable energy goals without increasing our utility rates. I've championed the electrification of our citywide transportation infrastructure. I've promoted climate resilience planning investments as a matter of public health and public safety. I've reformed pesticide regulations on city-owned land to prevent harm to our water supply and bee population. I was awarded Tree Folks Urban Forest Hero Award for being a stalwart champion for Austin's urban forest. I advanced Water Forward, Austin's 100-year plan to ensure a sufficient water supply. Advocated for significant bond funding to purchase water conservation lands and mitigate flooding. I established an Austin Water Oversight Committee to ensure our utility is fiscally and environmentally sustainable. I've increased investments in our parks and trails while in office and as parks advocate beforehand. I've elevated the environment to be included as one of the 6 strategic outcomes in Strategic Direction 2023. I've engaged Texas Gas to be proactive and innovative in reducing natural gas leakages and helping Austin better conserve energy. I've advanced the Austin Strategic Mobility Plan, including its 50% mode share goals. I advocated for traffic demand management methods at Campo and a review of the city's telecommuting policy. I've also supported adoption of Project Connect, a comprehensive light rail and bus system. When COVID-19 hit and brought with it an economic crisis unmatched in American history, I created the Austin Civilian Conservation Corps, the ACCC, a program based on the original New Deal program and which embodies the tenets of the Green New Deal. The ACCC employs Austinites who've been economically impacted by the COVID-19 crisis to work on conservation projects. It also features a strong workforce development and training component to help participants advance in green careers. Furthermore, I'm a supporter of the Equitable Green Jobs Grant Program in the city's Innovation Office, which supports equitable access to green jobs. I will continue to pursue this work in my second term to not only tackle the climate crisis, but to also create economic opportunities for Austinites. I'm not someone who places faith in the benevolence of the free market. Too often I'm asked to simply give developers everything they want and trust that they're going to be well-intentioned and that the community will get the benefit of that development. I'm not a free marketer and I'm not a deregulator. I believe we need strong requirements to make sure particularly big new developments deliver real benefits to the community, not just increased tax revenue. I can tell you so many instances where big developments come in and promise the moon, and when we don't pay attention to the details, the city gets shafted. I oppose the domain on Riverside because I think it failed to deliver on real affordability given the magnitude of the windfall and profits the developer would make from displacing existing residents. I believe if we want deep affordability, we need to negotiate from a position of strength, not just rubber stamp every development that comes before us. I stand for strong affordability requirements, and the city should push for more than we have been. I can't tell you the number of ridiculous cases where we let developers build huge luxury developments and pay the city a paltry sum that can barely build 1 to 2 affordable units. To get real affordability, we need to build it and require it. We need to aggressively pursue land banking, community land trusts, constructing affordable housing on publicly owned land, and require developers to build the units, not just pay paltry fees. Developers need to pay their fair share, and we need to treat Austin like a community, not just a giant cash register, hoping that a few will get the trickle-down benefits. We also need to partner with our universities to help them have an easier time building housing for their students, where their students right now are taking housing from the rest of the population, and for those who graduate, they don't have housing to go into. I think I've made it clear that we can't just trust a benevolent market to deliver justice in housing or transportation. We've got to be tough and work for it. I'm a trained economist and my husband is an historian. I understand the complexity of real estate and I understand the history of the industry, and banking and real estate have been significant players in shaping the historical injustices we see before us. We can't just trust that unleashing development and unleashing the market will make our city equitable, accessible, or just. I've supported our largest affordable housing bond and our largest anti-displacement investments precisely because I believe we need to put our money where our mouth is and not just pay lip service to this issue. I believe we need to be extremely thoughtful about how we allow development, particularly in historically marginalized communities. Development of these areas are not inherently good for the community. We need to look at each case with a strict scrutiny and listen to the community when they raise concerns. That's what I've always striven to do, whether you live in my district or not. I strive to listen and be responsive and to remember the historical context. I will continue to pursue an agenda of aggressively requiring more affordability in developments, of listening to the community, and of pushing for investments in anti-displacement strategies alongside of our transportation investments. Working on public safety and police reform is not a new issue for me. In 2018, I led on the police contract reforms that shepherded the creation of the Office of Police Oversight, and in the most recent budget, I successfully increased funding for the Office of Police Oversight and for the Equity Office. Following several gut-wrenching conversations with advocates and survivors of sexual assault, I saw clearly that our sexual assault response system was not delivering healing and justice to survivors, and that sexual assault disproportionately impacts women and people of color. I authored a resolution initiating a comprehensive evaluation of our system in order to bring forward systemic change and ensure that survivors receive the prioritization and justice they deserve. I've also worked to clear the DNA backlog and to invest in our victim services unit. In June, I co-sponsored several resolutions that aim to improve the racial outcomes we are seeing in Austin's justice system. Some of the specific steps we took through those resolutions include developing a system to identify and address at-risk officers who demonstrate dangerous behavior, improving the Cadet Academy and requiring more extensive ongoing training, including implicit bias training, cultural competency training, and more. Identifying opportunities in the meet and confer contract to achieve greater accountability for officers. Changing the APD general orders to restrict use of force on individuals exercising their First Amendment rights and on the general citizenry. And setting goals for zero racial disparities in areas like traffic stops, use of force incidents, citations, and arrests. I also am working on ways to increase language access, such as interpretation and translation, so that Austinites who speak other languages can communicate with officers and city officials. Improving their communication with English-speaking personnel will better ensure they are treated with fairness, respect, and earnestness. When the public safety contracts were being renegotiated in 2017 to 18, my staff attended every single negotiation meeting between the city negotiators and the public safety unions. To our knowledge, this had never been done before. I was able to make important changes to our contracts because I put in the hard work to understand the nuances, the trade-offs, and the possibilities. In fiscal year 22, these contracts will be up for renegotiation, and we still have much more work to do. For me, reimagining public safety is not just about APD. It involves all entities in our city that contribute to the health and safety of Austin residents. We need to be looking for new ways to leverage AFD and EMS resources to enhance public health, for instance. We ought to invest more public and community health resources in children and after-school programs, in parks and community facilities, and other social service needs, and view those as contributing to public safety. I will continue to pursue justice and equity in our delivery of public safety. I'm sorry that we weren't able to get together tonight in person or even virtually in person because of the council meeting, but I hope that I can count on your support, and my door is always open to continue the conversation. Thank you so much for supporting our democracy and helping to get out the vote.